Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking us on out. Your Miami Heat tonight lose to the Dallas Mavericks, 114-108. Thrilling affair. Came down to the basically the last minute of this game, but Miami really botching some of their late game execution. Luka Dončić really making them pay. Dante Exum hit some big buckets, and Kyrie Irving hit an absolute dagger. So big time shot making from the Dallas Mavericks late. Some really heartbreaking close misses from Bam Adebayo. Had a real struggle today for your Miami Heat. I would say out of anybody in this game, you're going to look to probably his fourth quarter and the lack of production that he had and be like, yeah, a little bit more from Bam, and they probably pulled this one out. But he had a really tough go of it. You know, Miami goes up 101-100. Jimmy Butler gets to that sweet spot, gets a bucket, gets the separation on Dante Exum. They bring in Duncan Robinson for Jaime Jaquez. Duncan, who was just absolutely on fire today, has a three-point shot to in the corner, has a good look at it, misses it. And on the other end, Dante Exum takes the opportunity from the double team Miami throws at Luka Dončić, who, you know, just freaking awesome today. But Dante Exum hits it, puts him up 103-101. Bam comes back the other way in the paint. Physical game. Refs were letting a lot of stuff go. Bam misses right under the rim. Loose ball goes to the Mavs. They come back, and Luka Dončić hits a three ball right in Jimmy Butler's face. They go up 5. Terry Rozier, who was far and away star of the game today for Miami, he answers, brings the Heat back to within 2. Heat then get another opportunity because the Mavericks come back. Kyrie Irving steps out of bounds. Heat ball. Bam has the opportunity to tie it. He can't. They come back. Mavericks miss. He then can't get the rebound. Lively kicks it out to Kyrie Irving in the corner for a 3. Makes it 109-104. Just an absolute backbreaking possession for Bam on the offensive and defensive end of things. And then Dante Exum, he gets a nice little turnaround shot in the paint, puts them up 7. Heat call timeout. Damage was pretty much done from there. Rozier would get a bucket. Bam would then bring it to within 3 as he was able to get the steal, run it down to the rim. He gets fouled. You're holding your breath because he was terrible from the free throw line tonight. He hits them both, makes it 111-108. 30 seconds left. Miami, all they need to do is get a stop, and Caleb Martin ends up fouling Dante Exum, who goes to the line. Brutal foul, and Miami ends up losing this puppy, but he hits his free throws, and that's all she wrote for that one. But yeah, just some poor execution late after Miami went up 1, had their chances to nail key shots. Duncan had a look. Bam had 2 bunnies to look at it, and then just some killer back-breaking rebounds that just didn't go your way. So, you know, you really, on an unfortunate side of things, you know, Dallas is not a good defensive team. And so for them to come through with the stops late is a little bit demoralizing. It's a little bit of a kick in the junk. You know, they're certainly a good team. They're not a team to scoff at, but they have been struggling. They have been in a losing streak. And you've been so good with the late game executions lately. That was a tough one to swallow. I mean, look, Luka hit some crazy ones. There was one. He hit this crazy shot. So Miami gets their first lead in a long time where Bam gets a rebound. I think, to my knowledge, it was maybe his. Was that his? He had, let me go to his fourth quarter box score. Bam gets this really good rebound in traffic, which I believe was his only one of the fourth quarter, and ends up on Terry Rozier, who finds a scurrying Caleb Martin to put the Heat up 97-95. Mavs call timeout, and then the Heat just have this great possession defensively. You know, Jimmy causes a loose ball. Bam, he gets a tap on it. Somehow Luka ends up with it with 2 guys on him. Caleb draped on him. Jimmy kind of coming over. And he just launches up this 3 at the end of the shot clock. And good. 98-97. Now, They probably should have Max Strus that man, because it looked very much like he stepped out of bounds. It looked like Luka got away with some fat toes there. Nonetheless, they did not call it. Miami would end up getting the lead the next possession and go up 99-98. And then Kyrie, he'd get a bucket on Bam. Jimmy, then, we went through all that sequence. He would put them back. So they were back and forth from that spot. But that shot by Luka was absolutely insane, much like his third quarter, which really put the Mavs in the driver's seat in this game. Miami had control of this game. Monster first half from Duncan Robinson, who was unconscious, like just could not miss from three, was hitting everything, and then naturally was going to probably miss a few because he couldn't miss. I think he hit his first 5 from downtown today. But I mean, yeah, Luka was just absolutely carving Miami up and just got to his comfort spots, was hitting some stuff that wasn't comfortable, finding and getting his teammates involved a lot better. There's a reason why the guy's one of the best players in the world. He was friggin' awesome today. And, he's definitely, there was a point where, he was just like killing Miami, puts them up double digits. And then Caleb Martin has this huge 3-ball, and it had potential to be a 4-point play. Didn't hit it. And at that point, I was like, man, I don't know who you put on Luka to stop them. I'm like thinking, like, is this where you bust out like Haywood Highsmith? Break glass in case of emergency? Because this dude, I mean, he could have scored on Godzilla. That's just what kind of mode this dude was in. So that was and then the other thing was, Martin was able to convert on the 4-point play. He missed the free throws. That was the bad area tonight. That was definitely a bad area. The Heat left 6 free throws on the board tonight. Mostly the biggest culprit of that was Bam. Don't know what was up with him. I know that don't want to make excuses for the guy. I know that, the last game that I was at, which was the Jazz game, he was dealing with something, but he was just did not have his impactful minutes today. And it's tough. They don't really have a backup center. I mean, you got to play Thomas Bryant, and you got to hold your breath in that one. But definitely a disappointing effort, because Miami in this fourth quarter played Jimmy Butler the entire fourth quarter, and he had a nice fourth quarter. He was 4-6, 8 points, but he didn't have never had those moments where he really took over, had the bucket to give him a lead on top, but it was not like your imprint Jimmy Butler getting the free throw line a bunch of times. They did a decent job on him tonight. Jimmy Butler, you keep him to a mere Jimmy and Bam, they kept them both to 14 points tonight. For a team that's been struggling defensively like the Dallas Mavericks, yeah, that's a decent job, man. I mean, to be fair, he got a great game from Terry Rozier, arguably his best offensive game or one of his best offensive games in a Heat uniform, looking super comfortable with that 3-point shot. Has definitely come a long way since the Denver game where he had 4 air balls. He definitely looks like he's got that bounce and stuff. I love the way that he dribbles. You guys notice how he dribbles, but he kind of glides. He kind of scoots. I don't know how to describe it, but I love the way that Terry Rozier brings the ball up the court. So yeah, just the disappointing thing I think that Heat are going to kick themselves with, they mentioned multiple times in the national broadcast that Spo likes the close games. But part of the reason that he likes it is he always believes his team is going to out-execute in those moments. Wasn't the case tonight. They did not execute like they have to the fullest. So they dropped back to 8 games over 500. Still 6th in the Eastern Conference, but basically in a virtual tie with the Sixers, and now a game back in the loss column for 4-5 with Orlando and the New York Knicks. I don't know as I'm recording this if any of these guys are in action. Let me just double check. No, they're not in action. The only team in action right now is the Celtics Nuggets. So look, as we said going into this, you want to get a split on this road trip. It's a back-to-back. It's a strong back-to-back that you got to go get, but definitely a winnable game tonight. And I think you look to your 2 stars and be like, hey, you guys weren't good enough tonight. Their star, Luka Dončić, MVP candidate, he was able to put the team on his back at a point in this game. and really flipped the script of the game, to be honest with you. Kyrie Irving hits the dagger, executes in a big way. It wasn't a monster Kyrie day, but he hit the biggest couple shots when they needed him in the fourth quarter. So, they just got you on that one. And so Bam and Jimmy got to be better. I saw, some suggestions, Jimmy going to be sitting tomorrow, second night of a back-to-back. Look, in my mind, this is the way I would look at it. I don't think you're too close. I don't think Spo's playing those games right now. And if you did want to give Jimmy extra rest, the schedule is going to allow for that because, you're taking on a very formidable team tomorrow. I don't think you can afford to not have Jimmy Butler, especially with no Tyler, no Kevin Love. That's a big ask. You're going to start, hoping that Patty Mills is going to give you 4 from downtown. So, in my mind, if you do want to get Jimmy some rest, you got Washington on Sunday and then 2 days off. So if you theoretically wanted to give Jimmy play tomorrow and you can give him, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday off to Wednesday, maybe they'll practice on Tuesday, but you theoretically could give Jimmy Butler 4 days off if you wanted to after taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. But I think that he needs to split this trip. I think that's a big time goal. Not hearing what Spo said. I'll see what the cuts are after the game. But I imagine he's going to be frustrated with this one. This one is probably, he's thinking to himself, could have had this one, a rebound here, a loose ball there. It felt very much too like first half, there were plays where the Heat, there was one where Bam gets a back tap, Jimmy gets on the floor, dives on the floor, and gets to Caleb Martin to go to the free throw line. Didn't feel like those plays were there in the second half. Felt like all those marginal plays, Dallas flipped and they were making the better effort. You could definitely feel the crowd momentum on certain points was pumping them up. So, a disappointing one for sure. Got off to a great start in this game, had the big lead in the first quarter. Pretty even in the second. Then they obviously got a dominant Luka Dončić third quarter and then tit for tat down in the stretch with Dallas, but you were already in a hole and, couldn't come through. And a big reason for that was, the lack of play from Bam and needing a little bit more probably from Jimmy to get engaged earlier in this game. So they'll need to figure things out and try and get a big one tomorrow night against the Oklahoma City Thunder.